Have you ever wondered what the greatest conspiracy of all time is? Well, Dr. Alan Keyes, my guest on today's program, is going to weigh in on that and a whole bunch of other stuff here on The Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to The Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. It is I, your servant, Randall. This is part 4 of a 5-part series that I did with Dr. Alan Keyes. We sat down for 90 minutes and had a lot of time to talk at a leisurely pace about a great number of issues. On today's installment, we're going to talk about the Republican Party. We're going to talk about conspiracy. We're going to talk about who leads the country and how and for what reason, and a good illustration involving casinos. So if you missed any of the other series, at the end of the program, I'll tell you how you can watch all of it. All right. So I wanted to come back to the unholy alliance between the religious right and the Republican Party. With this fun backdrop, many people who are devout Christians have lamented the slave-like devotion of African Americans to the Democratic Party, you know, trying to take the speck out of their eye, never seeing the beam in our own eye. I'll stop. I'll let you talk. Please take the floor, sir.
Well, in honesty, I think that the great problem with slavish devotion to the Republican Party for conservatives who say they believe in our constitutional form of government and the Declaration, and therefore in God's role in our politics, is that the Republican Party no longer believes in those things. And I think that's pretty clear and evident. They pay lip service.
There is a fight going on inside the party.
No, there isn't.
You don't think
so? That's all nonsense.
You don't
the party is ruthlessly under the control of money powers and a political leadership that is doing ruthlessly everything. So you're wasting time and energy trying to pretend that those people are going to give you victory. They never will. Yeah, and they are now in control.
There's been a few good people. I like Gohmert, for example, out of Texas. He's a good guy.
You're not
He's
listening.
A Republican.
The point is that the party is now under control. Individuals in it may pop up here and there, but the party is not going to come together to do the things that are necessary to save the Constitution, to respect the Declaration,
certainly
because
not the
the leadership will
Romneys,
not
right.
let it happen. Okay, so you can win a victory here and there, and that not only that, but they're shrewd people. They're like people running a rigged casino. If you're running a rigged,
once in a while you got to
if
have
you run a
some,
rigged casino, the losers are going to win. Every now and again they'll win big. Somebody will win big. But overall, the House will never, ever, ever let the profit shift in the direction of the people using the casino. And yet the whole purpose of government is supposed to be to represent the interest, profit, gain, whatever you want to call it, of the people who come into the casino. Political parties don't exist to make money. They don't exist to win office. They're supposed to exist to choose people to represent the people at large in the legislature and in the offices. Without representation, our Constitution is worthless.
I'm going to say a name, and you tell me what you think. Edward Snowden.
If he hadn't taken his intelligence to the enemy, then I would think he was doing a public service, and I'd help to defend him as he was in jail and other things going on. You know about that. He could have sparked a very important cause, and people would rally around him. Take our intelligence to the enemy, which is a deep and effective body blow against the security of this country, and I call you a traitor. People can call him whatever you want. You don't seek refuge with people who are our enemies or our potential enemies and hand them something with which to kill us.
Well, I don't know that he did that, number one. Number two, he wanted to go south to South America, and we negotiated that he could never fly over the airspace. So I think that he fled.
You weren't listening. He should have taken a leaf out of Randall Terry's book. There are certain points which, if you want to make them, you go to jail. Yeah. And the people who agree with you will make sure that you do not stand alone. And that would certainly have happened in this case.
He would have been more of a hero had he been here. I concur with that.
You can't, to me, you can't be a hero. I believe that in terms of things happening in the Ukraine and other stuff like this, you're not going to make me believe that Putin isn't blustering the way he is right now because he has a greater sense of our vulnerability confirmed by intelligence he shouldn't have, and that we aren't acting now at a disadvantage because sources and methods have been exposed to our friends, much less our enemies, that were vital to our security.
All right, I'll say another name. Vladimir Putin.
I think Putin is a very shrewd and very dangerous leftover from the old Soviet regime. People always want to forget that Putin is ex-KGB, and with the de-emphasis on the X. And sadly, I think there is a certain dovetail effect between Putin and Obama. It's a 1984 effect. Remember, 1984 was about the point at which government ceased to be about anything except power and control, and they actually foment wars with one another in order to enhance their power and control. And I think that the Putin and Obama fit into that pattern.
Barack Hussein Obama.
I think he is like Machiavelli. Remember what I said about Machiavelli? That he is of the Antichrist. I think Obama is of the Antichrist.
So you don't like him?
It's not a question of like or dislike. That's not
That was a softball.
I know,
Come
but it's
on.
not. I don't like or dislike
I think he's a bad
Obama.
man.
I think that Obama is and is acting for and is himself committed to things that are deeply wrong and wicked. And
He's
one
an
of those
evildoer.
things, one of those things is that he is actively destroying my country.
Hey, everyone's been asking me, when's Unstoppable coming out on DVD? Well, it's here. And I have created my own deluxe signature version of Unstoppable that contains not only the movie, but over 5 hours of additional curriculum and study guides for your family. It's perfect for your homeschool, educational facility, small group Bible study, and family devotions. And I'm going to share with you some of the spiritual warfare that surrounded the release of this film. This box set also includes extended scenes, new music videos, the inside scoop on the whole Facebook controversy. So what are you waiting for? I made this special version with my family in mind, and I know your family will be blessed by it too. Unstoppable 2.0 Deluxe Signature Version, available only here at KurtCameron.com. I can't wait for you to experience what's inside.
John Boehner.
I think John Boehner, unfortunately, is a collaborator with Obama. That's about the worst thing I could say about a politician right now.
Karl Rove.
I think Karl Rove is somebody who is the heart and soul of the money-worshiping, godless Republican leadership.
Nancy Pelosi, just for fun.
No, I think Nancy Pelosi is, a tool of ideological leftist totalitarianism. And the fact that she pretends that she is somehow still a Roman Catholic and a believer in God adds an insult to our intelligence, to the insult she is already paying to our liberty.
Cliven Bundy.
I actually think that Cliven Bundy has been doing what is needed right now. We've got to remind the people who think they're just going to walk all over our rights that we remember the Declaration, that it is our right, it is our duty to resist a government that seeks systematically to alter or abolish our liberties.
I cannot think of any time in my lifetime, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I cannot think of a time when armed federal agents backed down.
No, don't take that seriously.
Well, no, even though we know that it's a pause, it was hitting the pause
No, it's not
button.
only a pause. What you have to remember
Tactical
is
retreat.
it wasn't even a tactical retreat.
Well, in some
Play
ways.
chess.
What?
There are moves you make in chess because you want to see what the other guy is doing so that you'll see how his thinking is going.
Like,
I think that Eric Holder said what is the truth about the Obama administration's view of the American people. We are a nation of cowards. A nation of cowards can be trusted to give in to intimidation. But you got to test that theory. And so they move against Clive Bundy to test the theory that having armed your domestic forces to the teeth, you can take a single family and intimidate them, and other people will be aghast and complain, but you'll get away with it. Instead, what they met was a network of resistance from Americans identifying with Clive Bundy. It's not just him, because what impressed me most was that when the call went out, it was not even just that a call went out. It was a kind of graded call, like the system they use to respond to the terrorist threat. There was a level of threat. At one level of threat, if you feel like going and standing with Clive, do it, but I'll think about issuing a call later. And then a call goes out. Oh, everybody who has said that they're going to stand together, it's time for you to come stand with Clive Bundy. So people were doing the Minuteman thing, the true understanding of militia, in the same way that people did it at the time of the founding.
I think that the federal government right now, NSA and company, are scrutinizing every phone call, every text, every email that came from within that radius, because they have the ability to do it, and they are making a portfolio, a profile on all of the players that were there.
Could
I think
be, but
that
you
it
know
was
what
a data
I think is
recovery.
interesting.
I mean, they were literally just.
They were like
See
what people
who's-
used to do to test the pattern of anti-aircraft fire. You would send a little squadron over to light up the anti-aircraft battery so you'd know where they were. And I think that is exactly, you're exactly right. But what I also was impressed by was that Americans know this. They've known it for months now because of Snowden. That all of us are living in, as it were, a fishbowl when we deal with electronic communications and information. But it didn't stop them. And frankly, I don't think it should. The day may come when we can no longer use those instruments. But what is clear is that, that, contrary to what they say, knowledge isn't really power by itself, because you still have to have the ability to act on that knowledge. And I think that is what they were really testing. The root of the word conspiracy, by the way, contrary to what some people seem to think, is still spiritus. It means to act in a common spirit. The people on the left act in a common spirit. All the people who call themselves liberals and all of this, been to the same schools, learned all the same secular, godless garbage.
The Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the Herodians, the only time that they ever agreed on anything was to kill Christ.
Right, they have a common mind. And they don't have to get together in the back room anymore to work out the details because they're acting from common premises and principles. One of these days soon, and I think it's already happening because of Clive Bundy I was convinced, God-fearing people are going to remember. What is the most successful conspiracy in that spiritual sense in the history of mankind? What is the most successful conspiracy in that spiritual sense in the history of mankind?
Well, I would say the crucifixion of Christ. I mean, the condemning of an innocent man.
No, that wasn't a successful conspiracy because you misunderstand the crucifixion. The crucifixion was not a failure.
Oh, no. I get that.
No, you don't, because you just said it was a failure. The crucifixion was not the success of the conspiracy against Christ. The crucifixion was the success of God's conspiracy for the salvation of us all.
Oh, nice.
Okay? And that conspiracy continues. What's the most successful?
I stand corrected, but just badly.
No, what's the most successful conspiracy? The most successful conspiracy in the history of humankind is the conspiracy of the followers of Jesus Christ. Those who receive and act in the Spirit of God that He is, living and working and acting in this world. And it has already, not just in the United States, but everywhere on earth, Christ has transformed.
Negative.
No.
I thought you meant what is the most successful negative?
But I was trying to redefine things so that one would understand. The word conspiracy is not just negative. It simply means that which is done by people who are breathing together. You can take it to mean whispering in the background, or you can take it to mean what it does mean in a spiritual sense. Because the Spirit is the breath. The Spirit is the wind, as Christ says at one point. It is here and there. And to act in the Spirit of Christ is to engage in something that's like what we talked about. Think about that day you described at the beginning. You are praying for help, and the Spirit of God is breaking my heart to help you. That is God's conspiracy.
Divine conspiracy.
And it cannot be resisted, and man will not triumph over it. And that's the spirit in which Christian people have acted and triumphed even in death. because your death can be a manifestation of the Spirit that inspires, that is like an explosion that then spreads it into the hearts and lives of thousands and millions. It cannot be defeated. And I think that if we remember that soon, we'll know what we need to do.
Where do we go from here?
Well, it means in what sense? I mean, spiritually, it's clear.
Spiritually,
we need
politically.
to make God the focus, and we need to stop making money and making excuses and making survival and all this other stuff.
Hold on a second. As a Catholic, I have been a student, as have you, of theology and of various strains of Christianity for decades now. And when a Catholic says, put God at the center, those words mean something very different than an Anabaptist evangelical. A Catholic putting God first means I apply the totality of my faith to every aspect of life, including the body politic, including my duty to my neighbor. With some strains of evangelical Christianity, putting God first means I forget about all those things. So,
well, see, I don't.
When you say put God first, what do you mean?
I mean putting God first, but I guess I don't know enough to understand what you just said. Maybe there are folks who think that
politics is of the devil. I've heard that thing.
I think there are folks like that, but why on earth then did the Word become flesh?
Again, thou thinkest like a Catholic.
No, I think like a Christian person. It's not just Jesus Christ isn't just the Word.
King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
No, he is the Word made flesh. So Jesus was specifically sent in order to make it clear that in this flesh we are to behave according to the Spirit of God. We are not to reject the flesh for the sake of the Spirit of God. We are to behave in the flesh for the sake of the Spirit of God, right? And so there are things that we must do in this fleshly form in order to accord with the Spirit of God. And if you are King David, I mean, do folks want to deny that King David had an obligation to God to rule over his people righteously? He was in the flesh, but he had an obligation to God. And that was before Christ came in order to live, in order to die, in order to be resurrected, so he could become the indwelling principle of our flesh. See, when we accept Jesus, he becomes the indwelling principle. That's what the apostle says, of our flesh. And therefore, in acting in this flesh, we act according to the mind of Christ.
My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paulas Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life.
Now, as I recall, who is Christ? Christ is priest,
Prophet, priest,
prophet,
and king.
And king, right? And there are times when we are called upon to be the ministers of God's Spirit, the pastors and the priestly functions and so forth and so on, which even as individuals we can have in bringing the gospel to others. And sometimes we have to be willing to be open to the Spirit in order to open our eyes to the Spirit's way of seeing things and talk to others about how God is helping us to see things with the eyes of that Spirit, which is what the prophets do, I think. Right? It's not just about making predictions about the future and all this. No, it's just a way of looking at the world that lets the Spirit open your eyes and lets the eye of the Spirit be your eye as you are looking at things and giving priority to those things. And finally, king. Well, as Americans, as American citizens, we are part of the sovereign body of the people who take the place. As a people, we take the place of the old kings. And people are confused about this in America. They think the president's king or something, or something, the Constitution's king. No. The Constitution was written by we the people. Therefore, we have power over the Constitution, and it even has terms in it, how we exert that power and how we manifest that power through amendment processes and other things like this. We are the sovereign. Now, do you think if we have been called by God's providence, placed by God's providing in the position of being for our country, members of a body that is to our country what David was to the people of Israel, king over that country. You don't think we have an anointing for that? You don't think we're going to be held accountable for how we use that?
I believe we will.
I believe we will, yes.
How do we turn this around? We're on a slow and quickening descent into the jaws of hell as a republic. How do we turn this thing around?
Yeah, two things about hell, though.
All right, darkness, evil.
No, because I like to use the word, but as I recall, at least in one sense of the term, isn't it our understanding that Jesus knows hell pretty well? He actually wandered around the place and conquered it, as I recall. It's all conquered. It's all our territory. The devil only thinks he owns it now.
The gates of hell shall not prevail against us.
No, it did not, because Jesus, did his thing, and he was like a scout or spy, and he tells us what we need to know about hell. And the first thing we need to know about it is not to be afraid of hell, because we don't have to be afraid of hell if we're with him, because he goes in and out. He went into hell, God lifted him out. We think we're going into hell, God will lift us out so long as we're walking in Jesus' way, right, and doing Jesus' thing. So I don't know why people are so afraid of hell if they have both Christian spirit and Christian faith and are living confidently in that faith. We don't have to be afraid of hell, and we don't have to worry about it. So I don't see myself or America or anything else necessarily going to hell. I think we're moving away from God.
I said it metaphorically.
I know, but we're moving away from God. And in moving away from God, we are in fact giving up our lives, our true lives, for all true life must come from God. If we care, therefore, about life, if we want to live, then we must do everything necessary to bring our country back to its original understanding, which was in line with the Scripture, in line with the Bible, in line with Christ, in looking to God as the source of our governance. And it ought to be easy for people as Christians because the law is an indwelling principle for us. It doesn't mean that we're not going to act according to God's law. It just means that it is not for us a constraint, it is rather a liberation. We are free in the law, and we feel free in the law, and that freedom is the freedom that is supposed to prevail in our country. And it's time that we got back to that. Second thing, we need to identify the practical, single most important obstacle to the triumph of that understanding which was the original one, the Declaration understanding. And I'm going to shock a lot of people, and maybe a lot of people dislike me when I say it.
This is the number one obstacle.
The number one obstacle to restoring the Declaration understanding in America is the Republican Party.
Hold on. Yeah? Hold on. Jump back. Slap myself. The single greatest impediment.
Right. To restoring the understanding of God that was there in the Declaration to the politics and way of life of the United States is the Republican Party.
Explain it in 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes.
3 minutes.
Because everybody would expect me to say Obama. Obama's the enemy.
No, let me say,
let me finish what I'm saying. I just started something. No, you have to let me finish.
I want to just say one thing and then you talk.
Okay, go ahead.
An enemy outside of your camp makes you vigilant. An enemy in your camp makes you dead because he can cut your throat in the night, poison your food in the day.
But what does that mean?
The Republican Party. In other words, I'm echoing.
You're just going ahead. You often do, and that's fine. But
it's a gift.
The point being that Obama is the enemy that we recognize as the enemy, right? And when we look at Obama, everybody, as a matter of fact, in that sense, Obama has been almost like a gift to a lot of people around America. He's waking them up. He's making them see that tyranny is possible, that it's coming, that it's already at work, that it's trying to kill cattle and destroy families, that it's hard at work to destroy the moral foundation. Obama is the enemy that we recognize.
I hope that you're enjoying watching this interview as much as I enjoyed interviewing Dr. Alan Keyes. Brilliant mind, a brilliant man, and an articulate man. I want to encourage you to go to our website and watch all 5 of these episodes if you missed any of them. I want to ask you to tell your friends, all right? There are not many people in recent years who have had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Keyes for 90 minutes and to really pick his brain. So if you have enjoyed today's program, I promise you they're all of that caliber because that's who he is. Again, go to our website, and while you're there, look around. We've got books and training series. All of the material on our website is available to you for free so that you not only watch the voice of the resistance, but you become part of the resistance.